Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
He said he gon' huff and puff and blow my mind up. You meet the island girl, she might dirty wine up.
This is a special podcast episode taken from my summit that I ran last year, Reverse the Effects of Aging Summit. Do enjoy. Welcome back to the Reverse the Effects of Aging Summit. I'm your host, Deepak Saini. I believe that a big part of healthy aging and reversing the effects of aging is taking care of our largest organ, our skin. I'd like to introduce you to my guest today, Rachel Varga. As the host of the captivating Top 20 podcast, the School of Radiance Podcast, Rachel's insights into skincare, rejuvenation, and holistic wellness are sought after by listeners worldwide. Her role as an international clinical trainer for fellow physicians and nurses highlights her commitment to enhancing industry practices. Rachel is recognized as a celebrity skin expert, a dedicated researcher, and a multi-award-winning author. With 6 academic publications in the fields of regenerative and aesthetic nursing, she continues to illuminate new horizons in the industry. Rachel, thank you for joining us in the Reverse the Effects of Aging Summit.
Thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to talking about how we can be more radiant through being healthier. And
absolutely. I want to be more radiant for sure. I'd like to start. How did you fall into this field?
After I received my bachelor's of science in nursing, I did a couple of years of pediatric ICU care. During that time, I didn't feel quite done with my education. So then I was like, do I want to become a physician, a naturopath, a dentist? So I did my med school prerequisites, wrote the MCAT, and started to apply to medical school. And thought to myself, you know what? There's so much we can do these days in the health space in a more autonomous role. And I also spent a lot of time working with an excellent surgeon in oculoplastics. So in the skin world, you have your general dermatology, your cosmetic dermatology, plastic surgery, and oculoplastic surgery. It's kind of the hierarchy. So that's where I sat for over 10 years.
Rachel, sorry to interrupt you. I don't know what that means. What is that top level?
Yeah, ophthalmology, oculoplastics is, the eyes, right? Ocular diseases.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
And just a little sidebar here. You and I were both wearing our blue light blocking glasses.
We are, yeah.
Very important because we're seeing 80-year-old ocular diseases, cataracts, in 40-year-olds now.
So I know it's coming earlier and earlier. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the eyes are actually the first area of the face to show signs of aging. It's also a highly metabolic area with our eyes. And so I started to study certain people that would show up to see me for rejuvenation, because here I am working with, $160,000 lasers, some of the best technologies out there. And I would meet with some people. They'd come into my treatment room, they'd sit on my chair, and I barely needed to do anything to them. And they responded very well. They received powerful rejuvenation outcomes, while others, even though they came regularly and spent a lot of time and money in the clinic, they weren't getting the same results. So I started to ask questions and observe the differences between what I now consider someone who's radiant and someone who maybe hasn't learned how to become radiant yet, or might not have the mindset or desire to. So I kind of stumbled upon this whole study of what makes people slow aging and look better, feel better, and just be more of a pleasure to be around. So the study of radiance is actually the electromagnetic projection of the 10th body in Ayurveda. And it's a reflection of body, mind, spirit, energy practices, as well as other aspects. And then adding to that, how much oxidative stress is in someone's body. It's going to impact those operating systems and that electromagnetic projection. So it's not just the skin stuff, right? You could do skincare, you can do rejuvenation, but it's the home care. It's making great decisions day in and day out in your personal life, your relationships, your professional life. They all have a tremendous impact on your face, your skin, your hair, how you feel, how you sleep, all of that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like to say, and this is a bit of a simplistic term, but I like to say, skincare comes from the inside out. But it's not just what we put in our bodies. It's all the pieces of health, right? Mindset, your community, gratitude, obviously the nutrition, sleep, your physical exercise, and everything, and toxin levels, et cetera. So you're shaking your head. You agree with me. So maybe let's start with, well, first of all, thank you for sharing your backstory there. Let's start with why is skincare so important?
So it is the largest organ of the body. and it does need some extra care and attention. So, of course, reducing oxidative stress, which we'll talk about some of the key contributing factors that make you age faster, and the skin will tell you. But it is the largest organ. But the tricky thing is finding out which products are going to be best suited for what your specific needs are, whether that be what you're dealing with: skin redness, breakouts, hyperpigmentation, dry skin, fine lines, wrinkles. Maybe you have a propensity to do skin cancers or precancerous lesions. The skincare world and the beauty and rejuvenation world is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's become highly commoditized, which means it's more difficult than ever for the discerning listener like yourself to find products that are clean, that work. You don't need to use too much of it and are at a great price point. So that's what I do behind the scenes, is I sort out the best of the best. What gives results? What's free of parabens, phthalates, sulfates, artificial dyes, fragrances, not tested on animals, and of course, not using things like chemical sensory filters, but really it actually extends into all of your personal care products too. Most body washes, hair
Absolutely.
washes have sulfates. So yeah, you got to use the right products to care for the skin 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Just as an aside to the audience, I'm minimalist. Well, first of all, I don't have to do much about my hair. But I'm like, I'll just jump in the shower and basically, kind of, what's the saying go? Pits and privates, just kind of quick pits and privates and jump out 5 minutes. I take longer to dry off than I do have my shower actually. So again, that's not for everyone, but I take a very minimalist approach to that. I think most.
Surprisingly, I do too, actually.
Oh, well, there you go. That's awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome.
I don't use soap, lather my whole body either, similar approach. But when it comes to the skincare, it's also not complicated, right? Cleanse in the AM, PM with the double cleanse in the PM. By the way, one of the benefits to rinsing is you're not just rinsing off, if you don't smell great, but you're also rinsing off heavy metals, because most of the body's exposure to heavy metals is in the air, as well as mold and other things, not to mention the energy of the day. So that's
Sure.
really why showering, I would say, in the AM and PM is a really good idea. Same with washing your face. Follow it up with the
So
moisturizer.
2 showers a day. That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah, I do a rinse off twice a day
Yeah.
typically. Sometimes I'll do a bath, like an Epsom salt, borax, baking soda type of detox bath. It's a detergent, pulls out toxins. Super old school and dirt cheap. And sunscreen every AM for the face, eyelids, neck, chest, hands, high real estate area. But I do love full sun exposure on the body almost every day. And then exfoliating a couple times a week. Doesn't need to be complicated, but those are definitely that's a foundational approach.
So, I think most people will, I think most women and many men, and more so, every day, every year, are becoming more concerned of how they look as they age. So, how do you help, again, kind of that's your term, your branding, radiance. What is, how do you help with people's radiance?
Well, the interesting thing is, Deepak, is that the most radiant people that I've encountered in my life are aged 60 to mid 90s. They actually present as more beautiful and radiant to me than someone in their 20s and 30s that, has lots of collagen, but they don't have the inner stuff worked out quite yet, right? Lived experiences, having a true sense of identity, what their values are, boundaries, great relationships, being right with God and their family and community. All these layers are actually key determinants of health, which
For sure.
really make up someone's radiance. So what's interesting is I can see someone and they're in their late 70s and they have clearly signs of aging, right? Fine lines, wrinkles, some pigmentation. But it's this shine in their eyes. It's this warmth in their smile. It's this coherence to their connection, being in that present moment. It's almost like the way that you present yourself when you are radiant, you learn how to cultivate it. It kind of supersedes the physical stuff. However, aging isn't fun. Aches and pains and pigmentation changes to the way that we look. And there's so much that we can do about it. But the approach that I see far too many people do is they're looking for quick fixes. We're in a very click button to get something society, and they think, oh,
Yeah, instant gratification. Yeah.
100%. So if I buy this moisturizer, it's going to make my skin better. It's probably not, but what is going to make the difference is just following those foundations: cleanse, moisturizer, sunscreen, scrub. Maybe adding some actives like vitamin C, copper peptide, hyaluronic acid, retinol, at-home dermal rolling. There's so much we can do at home now, but then the in-clinic stuff obviously has a place too. But what I hear from my clients who are, I would say, 80 and up, that are truly vibrant, is they're always doing things to bring joy in their lives. And they're not complaining, and they're in gratitude. And their whole operating system it's almost like it's defragmented. It's not scrambled. And they're more coherent people, and they're a pleasure to be around. So for those of you who are looking in the mirror, you're like, oh, I don't really like what I'm seeing. I'm seeing, new wrinkles here. Oh, this, pigmented spot's just not going away, or I have a breakout and it stays red for a while. Those are actually all signs, especially after sun exposure, pigmentation sticking around. That can be signs of inner oxidative stress, as well as after a blemish, it's staying red for longer. It's called post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. So in actuality, the more effort you put on your internal body, mind, spirit, energy, your skin is legitimately simply going to be a reflection of that. Same thing goes if you make a couple bad decisions, live in moderation, you have a treat, you have alcohol, you miss out on your sleep, you get exposed to a little bit more oxidative stress. Your skin will tell you, usually in about a couple of weeks, through breakouts, skin redness, dryness, scalp
sometimes faster, right? Sometimes faster, sometimes minutes even, maybe.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I want to, so many golden nuggets there. So I want to just really underline for the audience. And then I have a follow-up question. So what I'm hearing you say, Rachel, is, the skin, our outward skin is a reflection of our inner health. And also, that radiance is not just necessarily how our skin looks, how our hair looks, but it's about our attitude and our presence and our, how we approach life. And then again, it comes to all those things you said, having a sense of purpose, having a sense of gratitude. And that's what, and I love that, because all those things are super important. I think they're all play a role in healthy aging. And then skin is just, maybe the barometer of all these other things. So I love that. You mentioned, about some of the facial stuff, and you mentioned hyaluronic acid, if I'm pronouncing that properly.
Hyaluronic acid.
Yeah. What's your take on? I think you were suggesting on sort of from a product point of view from the outside. What's your take on an ingestible version and taking it from the inside out?
Yeah. So actually, funnily enough, I take a superfood with adaptogens. I take a ton of supplements, with the basics being antioxidants, omegas, collagen, and adaptogens with regular detoxing. There's other things I'll take as well, but those are some of the main things that really made a difference in my skin. And when it comes to consuming hyaluronic acid, you're taking it for hydration. That's what hyaluronic acid does. It loves water. Now, there's actually other agents, like, for example, tremella mushroom holds more water than even hyaluronic acid does when it's ingested. So that's why I love to see what, products are out there, use them myself, see what results I see versus also what maybe when I'm not on it and I cycle out of it. So for ingesting hyaluronic acid, you do want to be careful with a lot of skincare products, a lot of different health products as well, because they'll use these really trendy words like copper peptide,
collagen peptide. That's that just blew up all of us 5 years ago, right?
I know. And so what's interesting in the biohacking space, when I heard about peptides in skincare and all these things, this is not new. Peptides have been in practitioner grade, very well formulated products since I started in the industry in 2011. So I started chuckling to myself, but this is a lesson to be learned. In everything, it's about being a more conscious consumer so that you don't buy things in fear, and you're, even having a mentor along the way to give you that support and not just going by ads that you're seeing.
I think that's super important. Again, we have many great speakers. They work with, like yourself, and that work with clients in their own ways. And then, of course, people like myself, coaches, and some of our other speakers are coaches, like whatever that looks like for you. If you're, I would say, and maybe it's just your general practitioner potentially, just like, don't just go with what you see on Facebook or whatever internet. Like find someone who's actually an expert in some aspect that you're actually looking for help for, and work with a professional. I think that's, I want to bottom line that's super important. Rachel, what would be, maybe, I know your top tips to, kind of, let's call it reverse the effects of aging. That's the name of the summit, for our skin. What are
Yeah.
your top things?
Well, lucky for everybody, I just wrote a research paper on this.
Oh,
Oxidative
there we
status.
go.
Yeah, it's titled Oxidative Stress Status and Its Impacts on Skin Aging. You can find it on my website. And I wrote this, actually published it open source, and I wrote it in a way that both the client and the clinician can learn from it. So what I found in my research there were 5 key areas that were impacting aging via the mechanism of increasing someone's oxidative stress. So I just moved out of a moldy home last week. Did I have a ton of issues from the mold? Maybe some fatigue and things like that, but otherwise I feel like my body could handle it. And learning how to keep your oxidative stress status as low as possible is very important. And we'll talk about the nuances of the 5 key areas that I think everybody should do, which is why I wrote a paper on this. But at the end of the day, it comes down to always being ready, always being resilient to be radiant. These are key layers, because if your physiology is kind of like hanging on a shoestring,
Mm-hmm.
something happens, you get exposed to a toxin in your air, water, lighting, electromagnetics, yeast, fungi, mold, heavy metal, parasites, that string can break. And then you're going to likely see things on your skin, with your energy levels, with your sleep, and all of that. So at the end of the day, just make great choices by purification, by always considering purification at every point, especially in the home and your office. So let's start with air. I mentioned the importance of actually how toxins and heavy metals in the air impact the skin, but I'll get into the science here. When we have debris landing on the skin, it actually tells our keratinocyte stem cells to die. It triggers a response called apoptosis, or early cell death. We don't want that. As we age, our skin cell cycle from the dermis to the top of the skin starts to slow down anyways. So that's why cleansing is so important. That's why air purification in your home is absolutely imperative. I turned mine off for recording, but they're in pretty well every home, every room in my home, and even in my car. Very, very important. I also don't use any perfumes or heavily fragranced products, because fragrances, I mean, we smell great. We shower all the time, right?
I think, I don't mean to interrupt, but I think if you have a clean body, and I think that starts with the nutrition, you actually, when you sweat, because I work out every day, it's like, I don't think you actually smell. I think it's when you have things coming out through your sweat, that's when people smell. But anyway, I interrupted you.
You touched on something really important, because if I can tell that maybe, I've lived in moderation a little too much one week, then yes, I will notice a different odor to myself. Here's the other thing. When you are considering personal and professional relationships with people, pay attention to how they smell. I kid you not. Pay attention to how they smell and how they talk. If they don't smell good, they're probably toxic. And if they can't form coherent sentences, they probably have a lot of issues going on with their nervous system, and also psychologically too. So this whole study of radiance really, and being radiant yourself, gives you an edge to find other people that are operating like you, that have shared values. And then it creates a contrast from people that maybe you want to see less of in your life, still love them and things like that. But we have this in and out relationship.
It's funny. I think I'm very sensitive going through my health journey with things like perfumes and many things. But I'm like repelled by people who overdo their cologne or perfume. It's like it's a trigger for me. And it's like I don't feel good. And I get brain fog if I'm around too much. It's like so yeah, very that is a line for me for sure.
Well, actually, your body's telling you something that those are toxins you don't want to be inhaling. So here's the kicker. A lot of people use products for beautification because they think it's going to make them more beautiful, like perfumes with a ton of phthalates. They spray it right over their thyroid on the delicate neck area, and it messes with their hormones. So this is exactly what you said, repel, right? So I want you to become a magnet for people that are like you and that have similar values to looking
Mhm.
after yourself and form your community around that. So air purification, absolutely key. For water purification, this is where, oh my gosh, I came across some technology a couple of weeks ago at an event. So there's water tech out there that is reverse osmosis. It is structured, remineralized, and ionized all in one system. So the technologies for reducing environmental toxins are getting better and better, and in fact, more economical. Being healthy isn't just for the people that have the money to do it. In fact, one of the things you talk about, ancestral living, is one of the best things that you can do, right? Get that fresh air. Just don't drink the river water like I did on my many years as an outdoor enthusiast on Vancouver Island. We're both from Canada, and I drank way too much river water. So what happened? I got a ton of parasites, but I had no symptoms. But when I
Right.
cleared them, I didn't know how good I could feel. My skin started to shine, my hair grew back, my nails, I play guitar, so it's really annoying how having to cut them so often. But I noticed these shifts when I really went through this pretty extensive detoxification process. So purifying your water is super key. If you can bathe and shower in purified water as well with the whole home system or a shower faucet, that's a great idea too for your skin.
Yeah, Rachel, I would love offline to get the name of that new
Oh,
tech
yeah,
that you came across.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And the people behind the companies also care about, I want to work with and align myself with people who are also radiant and do really cool things behind the scenes with their technology that I appreciate.
Awesome.
So next up is lighting. So yes, Deepak, you and I, we both have our blue light blocking glasses on. I wear these all the time.
Me
Actually,
too. As I have
yeah,
clear ones, but they're still blue light blocking, so it just depends on the situation.
yeah, I just wear them all the time. And the other thing is I don't wear sunglasses very often as well. So the photoreceptors in our eyes, they do a lot of cool things. So when we get exposure to the sun in the AM and the PM, helps the circadian rhythm. But also when you're outside and it's sunny and you don't wear sunglasses, your body can actually innately give you those protective mechanisms because it can sense that you're outside. Here's the other layer to potentially wearing blue light blocking glasses throughout the day is you're reducing LEDs not only to your eyeballs, but also the skin around your eyes, which is, number one, the first area of the face to show signs of aging. So there's kind of two benefits to wearing those blue light blocking glasses throughout the day.
So Rachel, let me ask you this because I hear this all the time from I'd say mostly women about the sunglasses outside. They're like, "Oh, I need to protect my eyes from that area we're talking about from the sun exposure because, like you said, that's the first signs." So they're like, "I have to wear sunglasses." And I was like, "Well, if we're smart with the sun, which most North Americans or most Western civilization is not sun smart, in my opinion. I don't think that's a problem, but that's a something I hear all the time. So what would be your counter to that?
Yeah. So when I'm outside, typically I'll wear a hat. And if I'm getting a lot of sun exposure, sure, maybe I'll decide to wear my contacts and my sunglasses on those days. But more often than not, this is what I wear throughout the day. When you mentioned being smart about the sun, um, this is really important. The lower your oxidative stress status is, the better your body can tolerate the exposure to UV radiation. However, in my research, I came across some information that we're actually getting more LED light radiation exposure than we are outside. And actually, the LED light radiation exposure reaches much deeper into the skin
Hmm.
and creates more damage. There's also another piece here. I mentioned consuming antioxidants, omega, collagen, regularly detoxing. But when we give our body certain constituents, it can actually gobble up those free radicals formed by that radiation, which is, creating oxidative stress in the skin. So I do take really an inside out approach to the sun. I used to have to slather my body in sunscreen. By the way, mineral sunscreens only are really key. So if your sunscreen contains anything other than zinc, or maybe some titanium, if it's anything other than that, you want to stop using that right away, because it's only going to last 1 to 3 hours, and they're known hormone disruptors.
We don't need to go down dwell on this, but one, genetically, I'm pretty lucky with what I can get away with the sun. I try to be sun smart, as I mentioned, and if I do need to, because I'm going to be out or something like that, I just use coconut oil. It's a little bit of coconut oil, and that's all I really use. Otherwise, I don't really do anything for the sun. But again, I try and be sun smart. So
yeah, covering up. I do like that full body exposure. But if I'm, out doing things, driving around, I will wear more long sleeve. But skin cancer is very real. So the skin is the largest organ. 10% of all skin cancers occur in the eye area, actually, because it just gets belted by the sun.
I did not know that. Oh, it's good to know.
Mm-hmm. So that's why ocular diseases, skin cancers on the nose, the eyelids, the eyebrows, the cheek, the temple are very common. So that's why personally, I wear mineral sunscreen every day on the high real estate areas. But, don't get me wrong, I love to mermaid in the ocean and get grounding from the salt and all of that as well. But the inside out approach with antioxidants, I used to burn in 15 minutes, and then I started to employ a couple of protocols, and I can pretty well be outside in the south all day and not burn, which is pretty remarkable. There's some pretty sophisticated skin supplements that I also use too, that have some excellent clinical research. I've done some research for them as well. So yeah, the inside out approach with sunscreen is a thing, but I do like to recommend it as well.
All right, I think we're on number 4 now, I think.
Yeah, so air, water, lighting, electromagnetics is really big. So looking at you, Deepak, I'm very happy to see that you have your air tube headset on. You will not find me using Bluetooth. You won't see me using Bluetooth headsets, Bluetooth in my car, anything like that. In fact, under my beautiful dress here, I'm actually wearing EMF silver threaded biker shorts.
Yeah, very cool.
You do not. I'm the queen of business on top, because when we are in front of our computers and we're live streaming, it actually emits as much EMFs as being next to a router. So this is what EMFs do to the skin. There's lots of PubMed articles out there talking about this. The research, it used to be pretty suppressed, but now it's becoming more mainstream. But what's going on is actually with the blood. When we are on our phone for 5 minutes, my phones are all on airplane mode. I keep them in a Faraday pouch if they're in my handbag or something like that. But for 5 minutes, when you're on your phone, your blood is starting to stick together. So your red blood cells are like these donuts. But what happens is electromagnetic frequencies and wireless cellular radiation, they make your red blood cells stick together. These donuts form chains called rouleau, and then we get clotting factors. So there's this reduction with blood flow and nutrients and oxygen to our brain. The skin being the largest organ, your detox organ. So if you're considering detoxing, I highly suggest taking this approach of purifying your environment first. It's like clearing out the furniture in the home before taking apart the drywall to redo the electrical and plumbing, mold remediation, stuff like that. You got to clear out the other stuff first so that the body can actually do what it's designed to do, which is heal. But EMFs are huge. I would go so far as to say EMFs are the smoking of our generation.
Ooh, that's interesting. I don't disagree with you. I just haven't heard anyone say it that way. And I certainly know people. I've talked about this with my clients and when I do presentations as well. I'm not an EMF expert, but I'm quite knowledgeable. But I personally know people who are highly sensitive and have had to move out to the country to get away from, what we're seeing in the concentration we're seeing in inner city with cell towers everywhere and now 5G, everywhere, et cetera, et cetera. So it's real. And I think that the science is catching up, but I think the data will also show what's us leading people, the biohackers have known for some time now. I think it'll catch up, and then we'll be like, oh, this is what's going on. You're right. Maybe it's this generation smoking. Absolutely.
Yeah. So basically for myself, I realized I don't know, back in 2016, I was hypersensitive to electromagnetics. And I was on this very important global website. And back in the day, I remember seeing it said that 15% of the world's population was electromagnetically hypersensitive. And to this day, I cannot find that page again on that particular website. But what's really interesting is in my research paper, trigger warning here, but death of unknown cause in Canada doubled from the year 2019 to 2020. Respiratory diseases, other things, they had their own categories. So this was essentially people dying of unknown cause, autoimmune conditions, or before they were able to receive a diagnosis and be seen. And I actually had clarification from the statistics publication on that, because I was like, wow, this is a signal. So as a researcher, I look for signals. So we did have a big shift in the technologies around that time.
Yeah.
So it does take time for the data to be published or for us to even have access to it. But that's out there. Now, the other thing I want to touch on is what I notice in people who wear a lot of smart tracking technologies. And for those of you who wear your rings and your watches and your bands, again, I don't mean to trigger you, but this is just an observation that I make. Yes, I used a lot of those technologies. I always had the Bluetooth off. If I had a mattress cover, which I did for a very long time, I would always have my silver lined blankets. So actually in my bed here, my mattress, my silver threaded bedding, bottom sheet, top sheet, another silver threaded bedding, and then comforter, and actually sleep in an EMF beanie. And I kid you not, the first night I slept in EMF clothing, shorts, t-shirt, beanie, I had 200% sleep scores on 2 trackers I was using.
Oh, wow. It's funny. And it's funny that you say beanie. I know we have probably a lot of Americans, but like, come on, we're Canadian. You can say two,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I have one as well. It's actually on the shelf behind me there, and I've never thought about wearing it to bed because I don't typically wear that, but I will wear it again if it's cold in the winter and I'm heading to a high, like again, downtown, the central business district where there's like a high concentration. That's where I will wear it. But I'm going to try that. I'm going to see. And it's funny, the trackers, not to go that. I'm actually again, same like you. Turn the Bluetooth off, take it off and only, upload the data when I'm not wearing it, all that kind of stuff. But I'm actually right now, probably about the last maybe 4 or 5 months, have just been doing like a bit of a break. Like I'm not wearing my Aura. I actually switched my Garmin actually busted, so I switched to like a old school, like a wind up watch. And so I'm actually kind of, now that I kind of know what the data tells me and how I can optimize myself. I already know that. Like I don't feel like the need to wear it as much. And so yeah, I'm taking a bit of a break from all these wearables myself.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a pretty blunt statement here. I think that a lot of smart technology is killing us. So it's just this constant exposure to something actually contacting our body is truly messing with our blood. So for those who I connect with that deal with skin redness, breakouts, irritation, they're just noticing that they're aging really quickly, especially in perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, life stress, right? That's one of the first things that I like to encourage people to do is to mitigate their EMF exposure. So turn the router off at night. Don't hold the phone up to your head. Use it on speaker. Keep it on airplane mode. Check it when you want to check it. But the same thing goes with these smartwatches. I want you to pay attention to when you're connecting with someone who wears a smartwatch versus someone who doesn't. There's nothing worse than having a conversation with someone and they get distracted by a ping on their phone.
Oh, yes, that drives me nuts. It's like, yeah.
But the thing is that these technologies are right over your pulse point as well. And TCM, this is your heart meridian. So, sure, sometimes these things have benefits for letting us know our heart rate, our sleep, our HRV. I studied that stuff for years. But then you get really good at knowing how your body feels and what those metrics look like.
Yeah.
And then you can start to lean more into your intuition. So that's a part of radiance, is being so pure that you can actually hear yourself. and what your body, mind, spirit needs are. And you don't need a piece of technology to tell you, not to mention, I do a lot of research behind the scenes in various different aspects of technology. And I do have concerns about sending and receiving data and frequencies too. So at the end of the day, you want to reduce your exposure, turn off the router at night, wear EMF protective clothing. I use a ton of technology behind the scenes for energy coherence in the home too. And the reason that I'm emphasizing this so much is because a lot of us are working in buildings and there's electrical wiring. So when we're outside, and Deepak, you and I are avid outdoor enthusiasts, don't let this blunt hair fool you. All 4x4 and hike some of those treacherous trails out there. I almost did search and rescue too. So in the home, in nature, Earth gives off this beautiful coherent sine wave frequency, the Schumann resonance, right? We know that.
Right.
In the home with the circuitry, we get all these scrambled sine waves. Guess what? They go right through our body. So I picked up a piece of biohacking technology a couple of years ago, and I had another piece of technology to actually test the human biofield and joule output. What does joule output tell us? Mitochondrial function, ATP production. And so I tested 6 people before turning it on, and then afterwards. Every single one of them, when I turned on this piece of tech for energy coherence, about 250-foot radius, they all had thicker human biofields and better joule output. So I think that this stuff over time does make a big difference in the way that we are psychologically, our mood, our sleep, our skin, our, stress really is the root cause of many things. And if you're looking to slow aging, it is about reducing oxidative stress at every turn. So air, water, lighting, electromagnetics, and then there's the detox piece.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. What's your thought on, like, from the detox point of view, just let's call it just good old fashioned sweating, sauna. I'm a huge sauna. I have a full spectrum infrared sauna at home. I do it every day I'm home. And then to your point also, or from earlier, is like, go wash it off right away, because you're excreting things through your sweat, and you don't want it to reabsorb. So you got to go have your shower right away. And for me, then that's a cold shower, right? That's my hot cold contrast. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So this concept of hot and cold, I just want to talk to it for a second. For those of you tuning in, it's important to not overdo it with anything. It's all about balance, yin yang, dark light, good. This world is all about balance. It's our job. What I think a lot of us behind the scenes are just truly wanting to be our best humans possible, to have better relationships and lead by example. So I'm so thrilled to be here with each and every one of you. But if we do too much cold therapy, especially as a woman, it's going to be too much stress on the body. And this was a mistake I did. I was also in 2 car crashes. None were my fault. And the cold was one of the only things I could do to reduce pain, but it also taught me how to master my nervous system. So this is a really good skill to have, being able to tolerate hot and cold for nervous system regulation. We need more well-balanced humans that, don't freak out when they hear some bad news. You stay cool, calm, and collected. You think about options and solutions, and then you act on them. You don't perseverate over things. The more cool, calm, and collected you are during your life, you're not going to be as stressed out. And then, of course, you're going to slow your aging. You're not going to be frowning all the time when you're
right.
So with the sauna use, absolutely love sweating. That's the beauty of the skin, is that it's the largest organ. It's a great detox organ. So taking a hot bath when you're sweating in the tub with some of those agents I mentioned before, sauna use, exercise are all key. And to just not overdo it with any of them. When I was in, not my last home, but home before that, I knew there was mold. I knew it wasn't right for me, basically my life, on every level. I just knew. I did some heavy metal mold testing, things like that. And sure enough, after I had the courage to leave my whole life behind, I actually share this story in my Audible called Radiance, the New Skin Science. I am living somewhere else, and I get my results back. And in that time, I had been in the sauna in the AM and PM, just listening to my body. Body says, get in that sauna, get in a sweat session. Literally AM and PM. It was a lot. And I did that for a couple of months. And then I got my results back. And, sure enough, there were at least 3 different types of mold in the home. So just listen to the body. It will tell you. You just have to quieten the mind, tune out the noise, that reptilian brain, so that you can actually listen to what your body wants. And this is getting to ancestral living and ancestral health, right? It's not about doing the latest trend or buying the latest gadget. It really is getting back to basics. So yes, absolutely. Showering after using infrared, near infrared, sauna use is great. There's lots of great technologies out there on the market. I love that because it's going to pull more things out than, say, a traditional sauna, because it's going deeper into the tissues,
Right.
using a little bit more frequency. But rinsing off is so key. Absolutely.
Yeah. Rachel, wow, like I thought we were going to argue. I thought our conversation was going to go one way, and it did, but we covered so many other things as well. And you've shared so much about your what your personal practices are, and all over, like all topics. So as as a wrap up question, what is maybe the again, reverse the effects of aging? What is like the one key thing for you that is that you practice for reversing the effects of aging?
Well, it took me a long time to figure out what was going on. So from March 2022 to December 2022, I did a ton of detoxing of yeast, fungi, heavy metals, and parasites. And then I saw my whole life differently. So it really does come down to purification on all fronts: body, mind, spirit, energy, what you listen to, what you read, what you watch, what you're putting on your skin, what you're eating, reducing oxidative stress in your environment. It's never one thing. People always love to ask me this question: what's the one thing that's most important to you? The most important thing to me is radiance. That is the electromagnetic projection into the world, according to Ayurveda, of all of your other systems. So the better your operating systems are functioning, the more beautiful you're going to be. And inevitably, the slower your aging will be as well. But yes, then there's some sophisticated stuff, what to use at home with products, what rejuvenation to do. And, I make that stuff really easy as well.
Very cool, very cool, and I think it's a multimodal approach for sure. So I love that. You do have a gift that you want to share with the audience. It's a free 30-minute skin biohacking lesson. Can you briefly tell the audience what this gift is about?
Yes, absolutely. So it's 30 minutes. I cover in a little bit more detail some other things to do with your skincare foundations, with reducing oxidative stress, what biohacking can actually do for the skin. Because a lot of people in the health and wellness space and biohacking space, they're like, okay, I want to focus on the skin, but what do I do? Is this going to be helpful for that? Because that's the metric that they want to improve, is physically what to look out for. So that free training is incredibly valuable. You get to spend time with me in it, and other free stuff as well. The School of Radiance podcast, I share a lot of great insights in there too.
Awesome. And we're going to have the link to get that free gift and all of Rachel's contact info and how you can connect with her on social media, et cetera, will be right underneath this interview. And if you love this interview, I certainly loved it. I love all the interviews. We've had great conversations. But if you want to, relive them again and watch them over again, I encourage everyone to upgrade to the VIP package, just $97 during the summit. After the summit, it will be going up. And also, don't forget to check out our sponsors who've made this a free event for all of you, companies like STEM Regen and HBot USA. Rachel, I want to thank you again for joining us in Reverse the Effects of Aging Summit. It was a pleasure talking to you today.
Absolutely. I look forward to interviewing you as well.
I would love to be on your pod. We'll do a podcast swap at some point. So thank you very much again. I appreciate your time. And everyone, I will see you on to the next interview. This episode is brought to you by Bioptimizer's Mass Zymes. This is digestive enzymes that helps you break down your protein, fats, starches, and sugars. I've been using this product for, over a year now, specifically in a protein-heavy meal, because I really want to break down my protein to make sure I get the amino acids that I need for maintaining muscle growth, maintaining lean muscle mass. Super important as we age and all stages of life, really. So again, huge proponent of Mass Zymes. Check out the link below to see how you can get at least 10% off, if not more. Cheers.
Podcast produced by the Minted Green Company